Everyone, and welcome to this important discussion on climate change and its impact on farming, how the insurance, private and public sectors are responding in Africa. Across Africa, farmers are standing at the front line of climate change, facing unpredictable weather, emerging diseases and changing ecosystems. Today, we're joined by a panel of experts who bring rich expertise and experience from different sectors of agriculture, from livestock to crops, as well as insurance and innovation. So before we dive in, I would like to implore on my panel to introduce themselves and as well as their portfolio.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Salas Yokoma. I'm the agronomist consultant here at Makisho Risk Solutions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thokozani Msimanga. I'm a broker consultant here at Makisho.
Morning, everyone. My name is Amos Mashango, agronomist consultant here at Makisho.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Maganza. I'm the computational agronomist here at Makisho.
Richard, to start us off, let's unpack the fundamentals. So climate change is a term we hear often, but what does it really mean from a farmer's perspective? How do you define climate change, and how is it different from the normal climate variability that farmers have always experienced?
Yes, thank you so much, Nono. So climate change is a long-term change in climate and weather patterns, such as your rainfall. So you can have extreme or excessive rainfall, or deficit rainfall, that is your drought. Such as your temperatures, you can have excessive heat waves, or you can have extreme cold fronts, such as also your windstorms, and you can have your cyclones, your typhoons, your hurricanes, etc., etc. So it means the change in the frequency, the intensity, and also the unpredictability of these weather patterns. And how it is differentiated with climate variability is that climate change is on the long-term side, and it can be measured in terms of the mean on an annual basis of each of those weather patterns. And climate variability, we just have a distribution of these weather events within a season, variability of it. So you can have late start of rainfall, or you can have some flash floods that can happen, or mid-season droughts that can happen during the season. And that's climate variability. Thank you.
Indeed, those are worrying trends. And of course, we're seeing this play out through the kinds of extreme weather patterns that farmers are reporting. Perhaps can you explain how climate change impacts agricultural production at different scales?
Yeah, so indeed, I will just take you a bit in terms of the trends and patterns that we have observed over the years and how they've influenced agriculture at different scales. So for instance, in terms of cyclones, we have seen that during the 50s to the 80s, there were only 2 cyclones that were reported per decade, and also in the 80s. But as we reached the 2000s, there has been a significant increase in the number of cyclones that were recorded. Between 2000 to 2010, there were 16 cyclones that were reported, especially in the Southern African region. And between 2010 to 2020, there were about 13 cyclones that were actually recorded in the region. And between 2020 to current, I think we are standing at about 8 cyclones so far that have been recorded. So if you are to do a very simple metric from 2000 to current, you can see that in a particular season, you can have more than at least 3 cyclones. And surprisingly, these cyclones are just coming with an anthropogenic nomenclature, meaning to say they are named after people. And you have seen that there have been so much names that have been named after these cyclones, like your cyclone Elina, your cyclone Elita, your cyclone Japhet, your cyclone Fred, and so forth and so forth. And I think with the rate at which these cyclones are happening, Nono, you might hear a cyclone Nono maybe in the near future.
Thank you, Richard. That really sets the scene. The reality of climate change isn't abstract. It's what farmers live through daily. So perhaps let's move into sectoral impacts, starting with poultry and farm assets. Amos, I'll start with you. What specific challenges does climate change pose for poultry farmers in terms of heat or cold stress? And how do these temperature fluctuations impact productivity? So let's look at things like egg production, mortality, or growth rates.
Okay, thank you, Nono. For the poultry farming to be successful, it normally depends on favorable conditions. For an example, when it's extremely hot, chickens, they react in a certain way that they get irritated, pick up stress, and then the feed consumption drops. That ultimately leads to immune system also drops, and then it poses a number of challenges in the farming. Like for example, the growth rate drops, the fertility also drops, the meat carcass also drops, and then in that space, farmers are experiencing a lot of loss. And then also in livestock, when there's drought, the pasture availability, it becomes scarce. And then livestock, they find it very difficult to eat enough forage per day so that they can gain the adequate performance. And then in that case, they also lose immune system that protects them. And the fertility also drops, production drops. So the climate change, it really impacts farming sector in a very bad way.
Thank you, Amos, for those interesting trends. They are interesting, albeit worrying. And of course, we're also seeing a play out through the different kinds of weather extreme that is being reported. What I want to know is, what is it that we are seeing in terms of disease dynamics? What emerging poultry diseases are linked to these climate shifts? For instance, we've seen more tick-borne and foot and mouth diseases. How much of that is linked to climate change?
Okay, thank you, Nono. Unfortunately, diseases are part of the ecosystem, and for them to be there, they also depend on certain favorable conditions. Like, for example, when it's humid, and then the bacteria and the fungus, they easily multiply, and then poses threat on the livestock. So it becomes the responsibility of the farmers to know, to come up with mitigation strategies that they can be able to succumb that process, because of also these diseases, they depend on the favorable conditions to emerge and multiply.
Let's turn now our impact on farm assets and infrastructure. I want to pose a question to you, Thokozani. From an asset protection point of view, how do hailstorms, floods, and windstorms affect farm infrastructure and equipment?
Okay, so hail causes a lot of physical damage to infrastructure. I'll give a typical example of our greenhouse structure at the prototype farm. In 2023, in November, we actually experienced very powerful hailstones that destroyed one of the structures there. For wind storms, it depends on the intensity of the wind. If the wind is very strong, it can actually blow down a tree, and the tree can also fall and hit cars. It can also damage buildings or a kraal or a barn that belongs to livestock, and that leaves them exposed as well. And then floods just destroy operations completely, because that's business interruption on its own. you won't be able to actually do anything. It destroys roads, it destroys bridges, it also destroys tractors because it cuts down on the lifespan of the tractor. So it causes corrosion to the tractor, and it also increases your maintenance on the farm because you'll have to spend more money on getting these things fixed. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
And are farmers increasingly insuring their physical assets against these events, or are there still significant gaps?
There's a huge gap, no, in terms of small-scale farmers as well as your commercial farmers, because with commercial farmers, all of them have insurance because they know what's at stake. So the other trick that commercial farmers have is they actually know the asset value and how it actually plays a huge role in their balance sheet. So that way, it actually makes it easier for them to get money and get funding. And with small-scale farmers, financial circumstances are the first strain that they have, as well as education. They don't really have much education in terms of insurance, and they don't see the significance of insurance in their day-to-day programs.
And in terms of the gaps that you've identified, what is it that MacSure is doing to combat those gaps?
So I'll speak on myself personally. There are a few programs that we're actually running, whereby we actually go to study groups and we educate small-scale farmers on insurance and what exactly they can cover and how they can actually cover their assets, as well as your consumer trainings. Consumer trainings happens all over the country. So we actually attend as many of those as we can. Therefore, we are actually exposed to more small-scale farmers.
Richard, let me throw this to you. From your perspective, what does this mean for long-term sustainability and insurance risk in these sectors that Thokozani mentioned?
Thank you so much, Nono. So we can see a lot of gaps, given that if you look at our African agricultural landscape, it's dominated by small-scale farmers. So if there are gaps in terms of knowledge and uptake of insurance, it means we are going to have a lot of exposures on our farmers and also losses that will ultimately impact food security in most of the economies in Africa. But from an insurance point of view, we are also seeing a situation whereby we have a lack of good uptake of insurance, which then is not going to make us a very good business sense because we will not be able to place as much policies as possible. But from a loss point of view, we are also seeing that we are going to be affected by high loss ratios, especially because of increased climate change impacts on some of our farmers.
Moving to crops and plantations, Silas, we've seen recurring droughts in the years 2016, 2019, and 2023. My question to you is, how have these droughts affected yields and planting cycles? And how are unpredictable rainfall patterns changing the economics of crop production?
I believe that sitting here, there are some guys that are saying, when I retire, I want to be a farmer. And I want to say to you that you need to understand what you'll be putting yourself into, because farming is not actually for the weak, because it's a tough environment out there. I'll give you an example. When you are a farmer, those of you who go to church, when you pray, you need to be very much specific in terms of how you structure your prayer. Yes, because you will pray and say, God, I need the rain, and it rains. Just 2 weeks back, we had hail somewhere in Northwest. It hails, it breaks your windows, it breaks your cars and stuff like that. and or there's lightning that now destroys your livestock and your crops are destroyed by the hail. So you need to be very specific. You pray, and when it's not raining, you can go to the farm as well and do anything, because we don't plow the ground when it's too dry. When it's too wet, you can't get in, because now also you will compact the soil. So now farming is a business which most people don't understand it. They take it like it's something that the way our grannies used to do in rural areas, or where we know everyone will just go farming. But now farming is it's a business, and just like any other business, you have targets that you need to reach. Unfortunately, in farming, it's not like in mining or other industries where you can get labor, you pay them a lot of money, and you make them work overtime, and then you produce what you need to produce. So there are targets that farmers need to reach in agriculture. Like on the crops, you need to reach some tonnages that you need to produce in order for your business to be profitable. For maize, for example, if you produce less than 5 tons per hectare, you are making a loss. So you need to produce 5 tons going up. So crops also need some certain heat units to grow and be mature. Now, what drought and late rains do is that they delay the planting time, and what then happens is the growth season is being shortened. So that affects the growth and the maturity of the crop. Now, when that happens, is that when the crop is not fully matured, it's not strong to outhear other adverse weather conditions like frost. So it will be highly damaged by frost. So now drought also, when it happens at certain crop stages, like at flowering and pollination, it will affect your yield. So this could actually cost the farmer, a loss of up to 80%. So the other thing that happens is now when farmers now are not able to plant on time, in some areas they'll have to now look into alternative crops. This affects the availability or the planted area of that specific crop, because now they have to move from, they plant for maize, now they have to leave maize out and go and plant sunflower. When there's drought, there's poor germination, which then result in farmers have to do replanting. Replanting is expensive, seed is expensive. So farmers are not able to replant, and then the planted area get exposed. So from MACSHO, what we do what we call planning policies. So the planning policy, after the farmers have done planting, we go back to the farms as MACSHO to ensure that and check the lands that they've germinated as they've been planted. And if there are lands that they have not germinated, we then help the farmer to cut them off from the policy, because now if we don't do that, like other brokers do, now a farmer will have to pay also for the lands that don't have crop in. So as MACSHO, we come in and look into adjusting that crop. So in terms of the excessive rain, I spoke to say you pray that it rains and then it damages your crop. When it rains, you can't do your land preparation, you can't plant, you can't do weed control, you can't harvest your crop. So now, like for example, a crop like soybean, what happens is when it's ready to get out of the field, it doesn't want to care whether you have a resource or you are able to get into the field. What happens is it starts harvesting itself. It starts harvesting itself on the ground. So as a farmer, you lose. We have a farmer in Vanderbijl Park who lost 80% of their yield. Looking at the crop, you can even hear the sound standing behind your field that the harvesting is going on, but it's not coming to you, it's going to the ground. And also these excessive rains, they cause leaching of nutrients on the ground, and now that increases your fertilizer requirements. Fertilizer cost can be somewhere around 30 to 50% of your total enterprise cost. So you need to apply more fertilizer. It also does what they call soil compaction. Soil compaction is when your tractor is passed on your wetland, and now when the soil is compacted, the roots can grow. Then it affects your growth, and now also these wet conditions, they also encourages fungal disease development because it's now wet. So farmers lose a lot of yields in terms of these adverse conditions. Let's make sure what we do. We make sure that we are on the farms, like I said, after planting, and make sure that if the weeds are uncontrollably higher than the crop, then we make sure that we cut those lands. And lastly, on this line, it's when we have excessive rains, we also have they are accompanied with hailstorms. So these hailstorms could have lightnings, like I said, they destroy your livestock through lightning. And these storms also can have it can make you lose your crop 100%. We paid a client in the Eastern Cape last season from our book. He had 100% loss on his maize because the hail happened at the reproductive stage, which is called R2. Thank you.
So, Silas, beyond water or rainfall stress, pests are becoming a growing threat. We've seen new pest outbreaks like locusts or the fall armyworm. What role does climate play in these invasions?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope and believe that we are learning, we teaching each other today in terms of farming. In terms of the pest and outbreak, are we looking into fall armyworms? We're looking into locust outbreak. The role of climate in this is when temperatures are warm, these pests, I find it favorable for them to multiply, and on a season, then a season by season, the populations increase. Now, on the other hand, these warmer conditions, they also then disrupt the life cycle of the natural predators. These natural predators are like also like you can name them pests, but their job is to do a biological control of pests, because that's how God made it, that there must be a biological control. So that's what happens. So now this result in farmers having to now use a lot of chemicals to control this pest. Be minded that now we're talking of increase in production cost, because now they have to put more money on pest control. And pest control, if they're not used properly, they will affect also the environment. It could be harmful to the environment. Thank you.
And of course, where farms are affected, entire communities will feel the ripple effects. Beyond the farm, climate shocks are translating into social issues, riots, thefts, and job losses. Togo, can you elaborate on these broader socio-economic effects?
Okay, thanks for the question, Nono. I'm going to start with job losses. That's probably one of the biggest in terms of losses, because a lot of farmers are actually losing jobs. Why are they losing jobs? It's because a lot of industries or companies have had to shut down due to climate alone. I'll give an example of Tongaat Hulett in Durban, the refinery. In 2022 had to shut down due to climate, and they had to release staff. Over 100,000 people were actually relieved of their jobs. Another example I'll give is Pioneer Foods. Pioneer Foods actually had to shut down before it was rescued by PepsiCo. They also had to let go of a lot of staff as well. They also had to cut down on production. And then I'll take it to people's favorite, which is wine. Wine in the Western Cape has also had to shut down a few of their production houses, as well as the production on its own, because of costs. And for instance, in in Western Cape. About 15 to 20% of staff had to be let go. And what that actually does is it also puts a lot of pressure on companies because the demand will still be high. And what that does, it then forces companies to actually import items from other countries. And I'll also give an example of small-scale farmers. With the drought that actually happened, about 30% of their income is actually lost due to drought. So that's one of the losses that happen, job losses. The other one that actually is increasing right now is theft, because when people are unemployed, some of them actually go to theft. So theft is becoming a huge problem in terms of rural areas. Like farmers are actually losing their stock because people are stealing their stock, as well as crop. Farmers are also losing their crop now. They've had to get money from elsewhere to actually make sure that they harden their security due to the theft that's happening there. And another one that we didn't really touch base on is actually health. Health is also one of the biggest issues in terms of, Silas spoke about nutrition, the lack of nutrition. So about 27 million people in Africa alone are actually dying from malnutrition. So that's also a huge problem, because if crops actually don't give enough nutrients, then that leads to malnutrition.
So maybe let's turn our attention now to solutions. I wanted to talk about the market overview of insurance. So, Togo, what is the current state of the agricultural insurance markets in Africa?
It's not so good, as penetration is actually not really good, because as we speak, there are only about 1% of small-scale farmers in Africa that have agricultural insurance. So that already leaves a lot exposed to losses. So there's a huge gap there. And I think in educating them and actually introducing these products to them would actually help.
Richard, emanating from Togo's evaluation of low market penetration, tell us which products are available and where perhaps do you see the biggest gaps?
Thank you so much, Nono. I think the market is currently dominated by traditional insurance products, which are designed to suit high-end type of farmers, like your commercial farmers. And typically, these products are quite expensive. And from an insurance point of view, they are quite difficult, especially to administer to small-scale farmers, because they involved a lot of high administration costs. Hence, you see that there's so much low uptake, and also very difficult for insurers to sell them to small-scale farmers. But we are seeing rising in parametric insurance product. However, these products are predominantly supported by government programs, where government actually subsidizes insurance. It can be 100% or part of it thereof. But the biggest challenges that we are seeing, especially on the crop side, is that even the livestock side, is that there's lack of sustainability, in fact, in terms of the government programs that normally brings in terms of large numbers, aggregates of farmers. Because on one hand, you have government supporting, and on the other hand, you have government not supporting. And so there's not stability in terms of continuity of some of these programs. But we also see that in the livestock sector, there's also traditional insurance products where you are covering the asset, that is the livestock losses themselves. And these are also kind of like favoring the large-scale commercial farmers. But there's very little that is coming up in terms of parametric on insurance, because what we are observing on the market, very much dominating, is pasture drought cover that normally covers the loss of pastures. Can it be due to drought or lack of rainfall? So the gaps that are there on the livestock side is that if we can find some solutions or parametric solutions that can cover small-scale farmers, especially on the asset side, that would be a very great innovation. And I'm sure there are some attempts to do such kind of products, but they are not widely taken up and common in this market. And then you can find that also on the crop side, although traditional insurance products, which is normally MPCI named perils, they are there. We are seeing a lot of volatility, especially in some sectors like tobacco, where there are so much high loss ratios that you actually seeing being reported in some of our insurance books. That is also making it very hard for insurers to sustainably and continuously support tobacco programs, and also the reinsurance market hardening on such kind of programs as well. So I think in tobacco we also seeing the gaps that if they some parametric products perhaps that can be implemented, it can also really come in handy to bridge those gaps. But we have also seen a lot of the perils or risks that we have already talked about, like drought, floods, excessive rainfall. Some of them, they are falling in exclusions in some of the traditional policies that we have in our books. Yet most of the farmers are actually suffering losses from this kind of perils, whilst they are paying insurance cover for other perils perhaps that they may not really have a lot of programs. So I think there's need to come up with innovations, especially on the parametric side, that can also provide solutions to such kind of problems.
Thanks, Richard, for introducing aspects of technology in your response. Just take us through how are artificial intelligence, telematics, and big data transforming risk management in insurance.
Thank you so much. I think the first thing, Nono, that perhaps one would want to understand why we would need to go technology is what kind of problems do we want to start by solving. So in agriculture, the biggest problem that we have is access to data. So access to rainfall data, access to temperature data, or any other data set perhaps you can think of that can help us develop and design products. The second problem that you'd also want to think about is how we can deploy our insurance policies, especially when we are looking at a market that is dominated by small-scale farmers. So then we have got large numbers. So policy distribution would also be another thing that you would want to think about. And another thing perhaps also that you would want to think about is that on the data that you do have, how accurate and how much confidence do you have in that particular data? So telematics and technology is coming to give us solutions to those kind of problems that we do have in the agricultural sector. So the first thing that I want to talk about is remote sensing, that we leverage satellite platforms to have access to satellite data. So this is now one of the main sources of data, I think, that we are currently using in agriculture to do moves to forward innovations. So with satellite data, you have examples of chips. We have examples of TimeSet. You have examples of Sentinel data. And these data sets, they've been on the improvement over the past years, where we have seen that the spatial resolution, where we are looking at the unit size of land that a satellite data can measure on the Earth in terms of a pixel, they've actually significantly improved. So you see products like Landsat data that were conventionally used over some long period of time, that at 30 meters resolution, which is very difficult perhaps to observe agricultural objects that are in the field. We now have new other satellite data that have got a higher resolution, like Sentinel, that is going as slow as 10 meters resolution, that makes you perhaps observe damages of crops in the field. One other aspect also that we look at remote sensing is the issue of revisit time in terms of the satellite. So there's been a great improvement from the past, where you have satellite imagery that has got a longer revisit time, which makes it very difficult for us to observe certain observations that can happen in terms of losses. Now, the satellite imagery that we have can give you satellite data in 5 days, some even in hours, which enables us to make observation in near real time. So with satellite data, we are seeing opportunities to develop parametric products at scale. But satellite data alone does not see light of the day when there are not other technological advancement as well. So we have seen there's been great advancements in terms of software development that can leverage use of satellite data, where we can actually have access to satellite data, do cloud computing, and process data in the cloud seamlessly. We have also seen advancement in terms of hardwares and other technologies like drones. So when we talk about hardwares, we are looking at even your smartphones. They've also on the increase. Your computer systems, they've also been on the increase. Now, when it comes to all these advancements and other sensors around, it has positioned us to a point whereby we currently are in the era of edge computing and AI, where we can actually leverage all these technological developments and use AI to run predictive analytics, modeling, and also pricing seamlessly, effectively, and using those big data. For example, as of late, you can fly a drone with an edge device on the drone, and it can take an image and process the image on the flight, measuring crop strays in the field, and then also at the same time it aggregates that data and give you inference on site. We can also see that there are technologies and sensors for livestock, where you have got wearable sensors that livestock can have, or you can put on a livestock, that can detect the behavior of the livestock, that can also sense the health of the livestock, maybe via temperature, that can sense even the movement of livestock from point A to point B. So such capabilities are helping us to harness data and collect data that can help us to develop new innovations in terms of risk management. We can track the crops in the field in real time. We can view the crops status at scale in real time using the current capabilities that we do have.
So while on the subject of data, let's bring it home. What is the significance? What is the role? What is the impact of the prototype farm in terms of product development, in terms of claims processing, really in terms of the contribution to the insurance sector in agriculture?
All these technological advancements that I've mentioned, for them to bring impactful products, there is a lot of work that is done behind the scenes in terms of research and development. So at our prototype farm, we are innovating and simulating and understanding and profiling risks for different crops, for fish, for poultry, for orchard plantations, for plantations in general, like we have pecan nuts, we have all the type of plantations that you can think of at our prototype farm, where we are actually doing some risk profiling, understanding how different risks can actually impact on those crops and cause losses. So now we take that data when we risk profile different crops, and then we actually use it to develop and design some insurance products that are actually quite responsive to those particular risks, so that we can have effective products on the market.
Thank you, Richard. So even with innovative products, uptake, as we have ascertained, remains low. Agricultural insurance penetration in Africa is still under 3%. Amos, what can be done to increase uptake? How can awareness, subsidies, and educational change farms' perceptions of insurance as a risk management tool?
When we do our research, when we engage with our farmers, especially the emerging farmers, we realize that one of the major problems is education. Farmers, they don't know about insurance. They've got this myth that insurance is expensive, they don't need, and so forth. So through engaging with them, we have started to engage with the key strategic partners like the Department of Agriculture, where we formulate a partnership with them. We are conducting consumer training across the country, educating farmers. Also, we have engaged with their financing houses, where we also partner with them, go to their farmers, educate them about the importance and emphasize the need of insurance. So the response is very good. Some of the farmers, they even take the insurance right on the spot. So through that consumer training program, so farmers are starting to realize that they cannot continue to farm without insurance, especially under these current climatic conditions, which is very robust and devastating. So in that space, I think Maksho is doing a very good job to close that gap.
So thank you for that, Amos. It really connects innovation to impact, showing how we can move from theory to adoption. So as we wrap up, I would like to bring Richard back in for some closing reflections. Richard, what is your main takeaway on the urgency of addressing a climate change for Africa's agricultural future?
I think we now need to start thinking outside the box and all the time, because the unpredictability of weather elements is becoming very huge. So we need to be very much futuristic in the way we think, and technology stands in front of us as one of the biggest opportunity that we do have. So we need to start leveraging on all the advancements in terms of technology, so that we can come up with new products that are quite responsive to these new threats that our farmers are actually facing. And we also need to think of partnering with other industrial players that are actually leading in some of these innovations such as universities, research institutions. As you can see already in some of the products that I've mentioned to you, they are outputs of certain universities, like CHIPS is an output of University of California, Santa Barbara. And also TimeSet has been developed by University of Reading. So these collaborations with, say, our local universities and all the research initiatives that are happening there in terms of technological advancements would help us to expedite providing solutions that are quite responsive to the threats that we do have. But more importantly also, we see that we cannot just innovate without ourselves also aligning with national policies. And I think it's also high time that we need also to have public-private partnerships with government institutions and other players that are also in the fight for the threat of climate change, so that we have policy alignment for the implementation of any type of the innovations that we do, so that there is great success in terms of our approaches to risk management.
Thank you, Richard. And to all my panelists, as we close, how do we turn today's conversation into concrete action in the field? I'll start once again on my extreme right with you, Silas.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think from my side, it's there is a term that we normally hear around, that a black man cannot farm. And when we, as Make Sure, we are on the ground with the farmers, we then realize that it is not actually true. What happens is there's a deliberate move that is there from the industry role players to actually fail the farmers. So basically, farmers have been failed. And I'm saying this because you are given a land that there was a commercial farmer there that farmed for years, and all the nutrients on the soil has been depleted. You are given production inputs late. You are given loans. Then when you look for insurance products that could actually make sure that you are able to repay the loan, the product that you are given is actually does not cover you for excessive rains, for drought, and the rest. So there is what looks like it's I don't care syndrome. I give you the loan, go and produce. There's no cover for these extreme weather conditions. You fail, then I come for your land. I take legal action against you. So that's what we are facing, that we're seeing in the industry. So now that is why, as Make Sure, we've realized that gap, and we have came up with a program, enterprise development program, where we invest in back from the commission that we're getting back into the farmer, and we're also engaging the industry trust. We're engaging other private companies and also government. We're working with economists from the Department of Agriculture to say, in this program, this enterprise development program, we find a way together to say, how do we assist the farmers? What is clear and what investors need to be, or people who want to invest in agriculture need to look out for is what in terms of what farmers need. It's clear. We all know. We know that they need drought cover. We know they need excessive rain cover. We know they want the disease and pest cover, which there's a level of unwillingness to actually offer it out, or a willingness to actually develop products that could better assist the farmers. So we go to the farmers and we don't give them what they actually require. That's why I Make Sure, like Richard has indicated, we invest in time into development of products that could assist farmers in an efficient and better way. Thank you.
And Togo?
I think more and more importantly is awareness and trust. I think that's one of the roles we are playing as Make Sure, because we are actually everywhere. and educating these farmers on what they need to know and how they can actually go about doing what they need to do. And yeah, I think that's it. It's awareness and trust as well, because you need to go to the farmer for them to actually trust you. You can't do everything on the phone. So be there, be active, be visible, and you'll reap what you sow.
Okay, thank you. I think for me, what is important here is that all these industry players, they must come together in one room and then identify all these challenges. Some of them are known, and come up with plans and measures to address them, because of agriculture, it's very critical to ensure our food security, and also it plays a role in supporting other sectors. So if it suffers, and then the whole economy is going to suffer. So all these role players, starting with the ministry, the universities, the financing houses, they must come together and make sure that whatever service that they are providing to those farmers, it really impact them positively and it address those challenges. So that currently they are all working in silos, and it is very difficult for the farmers to get proper needs that they get. So as Maksure, we have already started collaborating with them, bringing them together so that we can go to the farmers together, develop a program and service that is really going to help those farmers.
The biggest challenge that is coming out is insurance penetration. So we need to start seeing how we can help farmers take up insurance, either by leveraging platforms and technologies that we are building, partnerships that we are working with, and at least if we can start seeing the figures rising from 3% at least to 5%, it's going to give a very good narrative in terms of impact of insurance in terms of de-risking and also bringing resilience to our farmers. And I'm sure there's so much resistance that often happens with some of the industry players like government in terms of supporting farmers. I think when they start seeing the impact and the results and the uptake, I think they are going to support the farmers more and more, and it will be a win-win situation. Thank you.
At this point, I want to thank all my panelists, Richard, Silas, Thokozani, and Amos, for sharing such valuable insights. It's clear that climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's an agricultural, economic, and human challenge. So let's continue this conversation in our communities and industries to build a more resilient farming future for Africa. Thank you for your time.